Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jeremy, and you're listening or watching episode number 7 of Backstage Career, the podcast where I interview the people who are working behind the scenes with some of the biggest creators and entrepreneurs out there. In today's episode, I talked to Richard Reis, who's the founder of a fast-growing website called Most Recommended Books, and he's also one of the most connected people I know. In this episode, just to give you a sneak preview, he shares the story of how he got Jamie Foxx on Tim Ferriss's podcast. If you listen to that episode, Richard was the guy behind it. Number 2, he shows the story of how he regularly plays soccer with Ronaldo, the soccer legend, and why Ronaldo is the reason that he has 90,000 followers on Instagram. Number 3, he shows the story of how he bumped into Drake at a restaurant and managed to get into one of his house parties. This was an amazing episode. I included timestamps in the description below in case you feel like skipping to the parts that interest you most. I hope you enjoy. Let's dive in. But I found out that you actually, instead of going to college, you decided to go work with your dad to start a movie studio. I don't know if he had started or not, but like to work with him on a movie studio in LA. And I think you did that for 5 years, right? So I think might be a good point to start off.
Yeah, so I never really grew up with my father. So when he started the small movie studio in Los Angeles, like where he would invest in and produce movies, I was like, oh, this will be a good chance to be near him and learn from him, and and just kind of get to spend more time with him. And so when I came to the US, obviously the plan was to stay in college, and so I went to college here. But as he was building the movie business, I was kind of trying to like play my part, but it would conflict with the college side of things, where sometimes like my father would say, oh, we're going to have a meeting with Netflix today, or we're going to have a meeting with Sony. And I was like, oh, I can't go because I have to go to math class, or I have to go to whatever lesson I had that day. And I was kind of missing out on the real world experience, like seeing how do they negotiate at these companies, which to me was another world, and meeting the people and learning from them directly, and learning from my father directly. So after a while of this, I was like, I felt like I was giving up on this, once in a lifetime type of opportunity. So I had to choose. It was either, it couldn't be both. I was trying to do both. So it's like either you focus on college or you focus on this. So obviously I went with the movie business side of things, which in retrospect was a good idea. But back then it was kind of scary, especially, because my mom was like, don't do that. But it felt like I had to do it. And now I look back, I'm like thankful that I did it, but back then, man, it was scary.
So you were in freshman in college when you dropped out?
I don't even know what freshman. Yeah, I was like 4 months into it or something.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
It was, yeah. It didn't take 4, maybe 6.
So your dad. How old was this business? Was your dad just starting it, or was he
like a couple?
He was a startup. And what you guys produced, distributed movies? What exactly were you guys doing?
Yeah, it started with this group of people who had a deal with Sony to finance 5 straight to DVD movies every year, and the deal didn't go through because the group of people ran out of money. They needed an investor. So one of the guys from that group met my father and told him about the deal. And my dad said, well, I'll do the investing if it's just me and you, and we get rid of the rest of the group, which was basically what he did. So so then he took over the deal. He kept one of the guys from the deal, and the idea was just finance 5 movies with Sony every year, which should be simple. But then the more you go into Hollywood, the more you meet these producers and directors, and the more projects you start hearing about. So what started as just financing movies turned into uh, co-producing, which we did with these three, what do you call it, like festival movies, those like 3 hour long
Like the
very
Sundance.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, yeah, we did the a Sundance. I forgot the other names, but we did three of those basically, and then we did one which was finance produced and distributed by us. So it went from just finance to finance and produced to finance producing and distributing. So that was basically that was like a 4 year journey that felt like 40. It was a lot. It was a lot going on, but it was fun. Like you meet a lot of very interesting people, and
And were you basically like your dad's co-founder in a sense? Or were you kind of like apprenticing under him? Like how did that relationship work? And like what were you doing exactly?
it was it was like a. It's funny because it was kind of like a startup where it was my father at the top, and then he had the guy from the group as CEO, and then you had me as like everything else, which
You're the
was
hustler.
yeah, like the intern slash. I had to arrange the meetings, and I had to, but I would go to the meetings, and then I had to read all the scripts. Like they would send a lot of scripts, so I had to read all the scripts, and that was kind of my day to day was um, learning and how do you say it? Operating at a basic level. It's kind of like you said, the hustler is kind of a good word for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like doing everything else that needs to be done, and that was fun. And then my role just kept growing as time went on. So, but it started with just like, and it still was like we would do everything. It was three people, you know, and making these big movies. So it was like we all kind of did a little bit of everything, So it really was a movie startup. It still is. It still exists. We just haven't done a project in a long time, but it's still basically a startup. It's
Yeah.
like you take a Sony and you look at what they do, and it is basically investing, producing, and distributing, but at a very high level. It's a
Yeah.
global thing. With us, it was a very small level, but that just means there was a ton of work. There was a lot to be done. There was one time where I had to go to New York and make sure that all the theaters where our movie was going to be shown, I had to make sure our posters were in every theater. Yeah, so I had to like, hey, can I speak to the manager? Yeah, so this is my movie, and we want the poster here. So like small things like that, all the way to like meeting with Netflix and talking to the people there or talking to the people at Sony. Um, so that was kind of it was a bit of everything, like crazy stuff.
And so what do you do after?
So after leaving Hollywood, I wanted to do something. I always had this little interest in tech,
Yeah.
um, but mostly what I didn't like about working in Hollywood was how many moving pieces there are. It's like if you want to make a movie, you need the script, you need the investors, you need a producer. They're going to need location people, makeup people. You need the actors. It's a gigantic, even for a low budget movie, it's a gigantic operation, and
Mm.
I didn't like that at all. It's too many moving pieces, and I don't like you lose control really easily if the director doesn't agree with you on something, then it's a whole issue, and that happens all the time. So I wanted something where I could just sit at my laptop and code something, put it out there, and let the people decide. And tech became something I was interested in. I started coding pretty late in life. I started coding at age 23. I had studied a little bit in Hollywood, but it wasn't a focus. So then I decided, you know what, let me just like jump in 100% and packed all my stuff and left to Silicon Valley, moved into a hacker house, which is like a house with like 3 bedrooms and 20 people living in. But it was cool because everyone at the hacker house were like engineers from Google. Like we had people from NASA, We had people who worked at Facebook. Like it was such an interesting group of people. Have you ever watched the TV show Silicon Valley?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. It was just like it was multiplied by way more people. But it was super interesting to me because it's like I was learning how to code, deeply immersed in the world where everyone else was a programmer, and some people had learned when they were 10. So it was cool because as I'm learning, whenever I was stuck with something, I would just turn left and ask for advice, and that was a
That's the
really
best.
cool. Oh yeah, it was great, and I liked it more than even though when I say Hollywood is more fun, it's more fun, but I liked the Silicon Valley aspect more because it's I can just build something, put it out there, and let the people decide versus depending on hundreds and hundreds of people, and they depend on me, and that was a lot of pressure. Whereas now I moved to Silicon Valley where it's like it's not as many people, it's just you and your laptop, but that is good for my personality.
And from there, how do you get to most recommended books?
Oh yeah, so one of my best friends, Anurag, after I wrote this blog post called How to Think Like a Programmer, and it just went everywhere. It exploded. It's do you know Free Code Camp or
No.
Medium? So like it's one of the top 10 blog posts on Medium, and it's the number one blog post on Free Code Camp. I don't know how it happened, but it just happened. And then my my friend Anurag was like, oh, this is cool. Like we have matching skills. Like you can make something go everywhere, and I can build stuff really quickly, and like we can match our skills and build something cool. And I was like, yeah, we should try that, but we should establish a rule, which is put something out there. If it doesn't if it doesn't do well after a month, 1 to 3 months, you can kind of get the feeling. Um, Kill it, move on to the next thing. And that was the idea. It was like try something. If it's not a hit, switch. If it's not a hit, switch. And we did that. We did one project. It wasn't a hit. After a month, we kind of kill it. Second project, before we even put it out there, we could tell it was going to be tricky. Third project, most recommended books. And most recommended books was funny because after we put it out there, I kind of started working on my own project because I like finance and I blogged about finance, and I was like, oh, you could build some cool finance apps to help people with their finances. But as I was working on the finance app, it was costing more and more money each month. Like the more people signed up, the more it was cost, the more the cost would go up, obviously. And and I was like, well, I could either raise money, but no one knows me. So like if I raise money right now, it's going to be at a bad valuation. It's probably going to be some dentist, angel investor. Like I don't want to raise money from yeah. Like I want to do it. I want to like do it the right way, and
Yeah.
I don't want. I like the finance project so much that I don't want to risk it. But so I was like, I should probably put this aside and maybe work on it in the future. At that exact moment, I look at this most recommended books thing that we put out. We didn't kill it, and 6 months afterwards, I saw the data, and each month there were more users, more money. You know, so and I wasn't doing anything. I had totally forgotten about this project, and Anurag had totally forgotten about this project. But we didn't kill it. We just left it there. And 6 months later, I look at the data, and it's growing, growing, growing. And I was like, oh my god! And it's making money, and it's profitable. So I'm like, oh my god, this is cool. I don't have to raise money for this, um, and I can build this thing and learn a lot thanks to it. So I decided to like put everything else aside and focus 100% on most recommended books, and see like, okay, if I just put everything I have into this, how much can it grow? And it's still growing. So it's been a year now. It's been a little over a year now, and it's still growing, growing, growing. So that's what's cool about this. It was such a organic, unplanned thing. Like
Yeah.
people talk about Babe Ruth calling his shot, and this was totally not that. Like I
Yeah.
didn't see that happening. It was just a try, try, try. Put a bunch of projects, see which ones are hits, and then just focus on that. and that's kind of like I joke that like most recommended books was discovered. It wasn't built. It was discovered. It just that just happened. So now I'm focused on that 100%.
That's awesome, dude. And what like how many users do you have right now? Like a monthly active or whatever you use to track?
Monthly active is it's like 70,000,
Oh wow.
something like that. It's up there. Yeah. Like the however, we differentiate between like people who sign up and people who visit the website, because there's two sides to our business. One is like, because you know how most recommended books is, right? We show
Yeah.
the books recommended by like Tim Ferriss and Elon. So that's one side where it's like people Google Elon Musk books and
Yeah.
finding us. The other side, which is what we just started, is okay, now you see Elon's list, you see Tim's list. Now you can create your own list. And that's kind of what we're focused on now, you know. So there's two different businesses, and it's I'm kind of having a hard time merging them,
Yeah.
you know.
I can imagine.
But it's getting better each month because we just released the thing where anyone can create an account, you know. So mixing them both is tricky right now, but it's getting better each week, you know. So that's the main focus.
Hell yeah, man. Hopefully you guys can pay the co-founder to bring him on full time soon.
Yeah, the thing about most recommended books was never a like when we started originally, when my co-founder said, "Oh, we should build something together." The goal was like, you know, you can make a few hundred extra bucks a month. Like we didn't plan on this being a full-time startup thing. It's kind of like my blog. It's like just make a few hundred extra bucks a month and you're happy, right? Like this I didn't think that just putting a bunch of people's book lists out there would make more than a few $100s a month, you know.
Mm.
And then it was like, okay, it did that. Okay, can we get to a few thousand? Okay, it did that. Okay, can we get to a few tens of thousands? You know, so it's kind of like it keeps how do you say, surprising me at each
Yeah.
step. Like it surprised me for the last year, you know. So I don't know how far it can go, but the ideal goal for this is don't raise money, you know. Like this is not the like, you know, unicorn type, raise as much money as you can and build something. Use this as kind of how do you say, have you read Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea. It's kind of like he talks about the concept of a muse,
Yeah.
you know, just something that is out there and it's paying for your lifestyle and your friend's lifestyle. And so kind of most recommended books is kind of the muse, you know, like that we're trying to create something that allows us to do other things, you know, and that's basically what it's becoming, you know. And it's already exceeded expectations. So now it's like, okay, let's increase expectations, you know. So at some point, you know, it's gonna stop, but so far it's each month it's just growing. So keep going in that direction.
I want to ask you about just connecting with people that you look up to. Like I think we met because you were invited to dinner with with my boss, like Noah Kagan. And I think you met via his friend, right? Neville,
Neville.
which you took his course, and I think you probably learned a lot from him. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're friends with Jamie Foxx. Like I'm curious, like what is it about you that how do you connect with these people, right? Because like I think it's not common for anyone to connect with the people they look up to. So yeah, what do you have to share around that?
It's I forget where I learned this, but it's like always trying to bring them so like you bring them value. So like you look at with Jamie, we didn't connect because I was trying to befriend him. We connected because we were going to work on a project together. um with Ferriss, like we didn't connect because I was trying to befriend him, or I was trying to get him as a mentor. We connected because I thought that interviewing Fox would be beneficial to his podcast, and I thought that being on Tim's show would be beneficial to Fox too, because the Tim Ferriss effect is this crazy. Like Fox didn't believe because Fox was like, oh, podcasts, like what is this? Like who cares? I was like, no, trust me. This is cool. It was kind of new, and I was like, no, this is a big deal. I didn't even know who Joe Rogan was at the time, so it was like it wasn't brand new, but it wasn't like this huge mainstream thing, where Bernie Sanders is being interviewed by Joe Rogan now. Yeah. Back then it wasn't that. So I was like, no, trust me, it's cool. And he did it. And like we would go to restaurants. There was one time we went to a restaurant, and like the person working there came up to Jamie and said, like, Jamie, I listened to your Tim Ferriss interview, and oh my God, like, you changed my life. It was amazing. I was like, it's funny because it's like he said it's like he had a movie out. It's like when you have a new movie out, everyone's like, oh man, that was great. Like what you did, and it felt like he had a movie, because everywhere we'd go, people would stop him and be like, that Tim Ferriss interview, oh my God, it was amazing. It was great. So with connecting with these people, I always try to, bring something to them.
Yeah.
So it's always trying to, what can I do for them that they would be thankful for? And that's kind of what I try to do with meeting the people you listed.
So like Neville, who's the founder of copywriting, copywriting course. You join his course, and then how do you guys connect, like, personally?
Well, I joined his course. Well, bring something to him. So like I joined the course. So obviously I paid the fee. So, but then the cool thing about his course is that, like, once every week or 2 weeks, we would have a Zoom call. So it's him giving advice to this group of people, and I was one of the people, and I was always asking questions about copy, because he's really good at copy. So like for most recommended books is copy, SEO. He's very good at SEO. So I was always asking these questions. And one day he one of the calls, he was like, oh, I'm here in LA, I'm in Malibu. And I'm like, I'm in LA. It was last summer, and I was like, what? You're in LA? So am I. We should hang out. And then we ended up hanging out, and he was with Noah. So it was just like the Noah thing was by luck, but obviously I knew of Noah before, so it was a cool connection, but yeah, like it all started because I joined his course, and every call I was there. You see some people who, like, they do 3 calls and then they drop out. Yeah. Every single call I was there, and I really took it seriously. So that was we connected over that,
Yeah, add value. That's the punchline.
Always. Yeah, because these people, like they get asked for favors all the time, but you have to, like, kind of, what can you do for them? It's just a basic principle that I always try to, and obviously, like, you can't always do it because like, it's not like I've met everyone, but whenever I can, like, try to add some value, like do something for them, and it builds something more organic and stronger than if you just, if you ask for a tweet, they might tweet you, but it doesn't build, a strong core. So always add value. You know this well.
I do.
yeah, exactly. You work with Tom and Noah, so yeah, this isn't new.
It's good. It's always, I don't know. I what I'm trying to do with the podcast is, like, just collect these stories, because, like, I think there's so many. Like, adding value, it's like a simple thing, but it's also, like, a very complex thing, right? Like, like the way you made the Tim Ferriss show interview happen, like, that was, like, a very subtle operation, right? And I'm just a fan of collecting these stories of, like, oh, like, how did you connect with this person? Like, how did you help this person out? And just to kind of, like, spark inspiration in other people of, like, how these things happen. Plus, there's always a good story, because you need to be super creative to make it happen, right? So it's like, yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah. But you have, like, a lot of Instagram followers. Where do you get those?
That was a Ronaldo. So like we were hanging out once, and then we took a picture together. He posted it on his Instagram. He tagged me. I had 60 followers. He tags me.
Holy shit.
He's the most followed person on Instagram. So it's like he's the number one. He tags me. He goes on my photos and he likes all my photos. And this was back when on Instagram, if someone likes a photo, you would see it. So from there,
holy shit.
I got like 80,000 followers. But it was just him. Like I never post on the Instagram post thing. Like I don't. I'm not good with social media, but that Instagram thing was just him basically. There's like Fox follows me and a few people follow me, but I know exactly when. And obviously, like I got a lot of followers from that, but it just went nuts after Ronaldo's. And he was laughing. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Haha, watch this." and my phone was like,
holy shit.
I was like, "That's insane." But yeah, none of it was me because I like other than Medium, I could say it was me.
Yeah.
Like I have like I think it was like 9,000 followers on Medium or something, but that was from me, like blogging.
Grinding like 1 year blogging every week or more.
That one
even,
I can
right?
say it was me. Yeah, I was purposely aiming for that, but Instagram it wasn't. Like no, Instagram was just.
So how I mean, you just dropped the bomb of like just hanging out with Ronaldo. How did that happen?
Oh, we have a mutual friend, Miguel. Like he's the probably the best dentist in the world. He's this Portuguese guy, and when I lived in LA, he stayed at my house because he was going to LA. He was going to spend a month there. I was alone in LA, and my dad was like, "Oh, I have a friend who's coming to LA. He's going to stay at the house. You guys should hang out." Because I was alone, and I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay, someone's gonna a month." A month? That's a long time, Dad. Like, I'm gonna have to live with a stranger for a month. But Miguel's like the coolest guy. Like, he arrived that day. He's like, "Hi, I'm Miguel," and we just got along so well. Like he became like a brother, and he's also friends with Ronaldo. So when Real Madrid came to town, uh, uh, they were staying at a hotel that was like near where I lived. It was like 10 minutes away. And my friend and Miguel was like, "Oh, Real Madrid is in town. Like, do you want to meet them? Like, it would be cool. Like, you guys hanging out." So then I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah, it'd be great to meet them." Because like I kind of have a history with soccer. Because like I was bullied in school. Like I was never popular in school, and they would always make fun of me because I couldn't play sports. Like I couldn't play soccer, and I got the crap kicked out of me in school because of soccer. And all these kids loved Ronaldo. So I was always like, "Man, one day I want to be friends with them, and I'll show everyone." And crazily enough, like Miguel was like, "Hey, Real Madrid is in town. Do you want to hang with them?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" And then I told them the story. I met Ronaldo and I met Kaká and all these guys. And I told them, like, "You guys have no idea. This is crazy for me because I was bullied in school. And now, like, we're hanging out. We're at my house and we're chilling. We're laughing. And I was like, this is so surreal. Because if you rewind it from that moment, 5 years, maybe more before, I was like being bullied and made fun of. And, like, haha, like, he can't even kick the ball. I was that kid where it's like, everyone was playing soccer and they would pick, and I was the last pick. It was always that embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward 5 years and here I am with these guys, and I'm like kicking a soccer ball and Ronaldo's kicking it. And I'm like, what the hell? Like this is so
that's
surreal.
Wild.
It was a really surreal moment, and then we became friends. So every time Real Madrid would come to town, they would come to my house and we'd throw like a little party or something and have some people over and just have fun. We just became friends. And and then the Instagram thing happened, and I was like, "This is it." He was like, "Do you have Instagram?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I only have I never use Instagram. I only have 60 followers." He's like, "What's your Instagram?" I was like, whatever.
I wonder how many people he's done that to.
A lot, yeah. If you look at his circle of friends, they
all have like
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 100,000,
100,000
200,000.
followers.
Yeah. They hang out with him more. I only see him when he comes to the US. And
Yeah.
but like our friends who live in Europe, it's like they have like hundreds of thousands of followers. It's like this guy,
It's like
he's
you're an
a
influencer overnight.
yeah, he's the influencer of influencers. I call him
Yeah.
King of Kings because he really like, in terms of interesting people that I've met. This is also why I like Fox. You know, like there's I've met, you name them, except for Eminem, who's one person I really want to meet. I've never met. Except for Eminem, I've met pretty much everyone. But the most interesting people, I I really try to connect with them. And Ronaldo is one of these guys where just being around him, I don't know what it like, whatever you believe in, it's like the world becomes smaller when you're
Yeah.
in the same room as him. It's kind of like possibilities become endless. He kind of makes me understand like these great leaders of the past. You know, like
Yeah.
like Alexander, people would give their life for Alexander, and what was
Mm.
about his charisma. And when you're there with Ronaldo, I'm like, oh, I get it. You know, like this guy just has this. It's like I'm around him, and my luck, whatever my luck level is, it goes up. It's like suddenly I'm around him, and some business deal goes through, and I get some notification. It's like, oh, this business deal, or this whatever it is, something happened. I'm like, well, this is so real. I know it sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
he
It
has
kind
this.
of goes. It kind of goes along the lines of that book we were talking about, right? Where it's like the stuff. It's like hard to believe, but it's
I have a story on this where we were in Miami, and he so we rented. This is public, like there's photos out. So we rent this
yeah.
boat. He rents the boat. I don't know, he rents the boat. We go out into the like the Miami Bay or whatever, and it's just us, group of friends. And then we stop at a, like, I don't know if it's a river or something, but we go away from the ocean into this river, and we're just chilling. They stop the boat so that we can relax because the sun is coming down. And one guy's like, I think someone was like, oh, maybe we should go swimming in the water. And one guy was like, no, 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 don't do that because there's crocodiles here. And as soon as I heard crocodiles, I'm like, I'm not going in that water. You know, I am not going in that water. And Ronaldo jumps in the water. And everyone who was like, I'm not going to go in the water because there's crocodiles, the girls were the first to jump after him. I was like, I see him jumping, and I look to my left, and all the girls are gone, and I'm like, and I'm like, everyone was afraid of the crocodiles 2 seconds ago. Now everyone's jumping in the water because the irrational belief is like, well, the crocodile's not going to get him, right? Like nothing's going to happen.
The crocodile's not going to eat Ronaldo. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So it's like, it sounds crazy, but I jumped in the water. You know, it's like that's the photo on Instagram. It's all of us in the water, like, you know, and
That's funny.
which is crazy because just 5 minutes ago, everyone was like, well, no, there's crocodiles here. We're not going to jump. And he was kind of like this guy who's like, oh, come on, you guys are, stop being, babies. Come on. He jumps, and suddenly everyone else forgot that there's crocodiles, and everyone jumped. And I'm like, it sounds crazy when you describe it. It's like, you idiot.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? But if you were there in that moment, you're like, yeah, nothing's going to happen. And nothing happened. And you're like, you look back and you're like, I was such an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's hard to describe. It's like, okay, now I get how, people would risk their lives for Alexander. Alexander
It's like
would say,
you're
no,
kind of like intoxicated on their charisma almost,
Yeah. There's something about, intoxicated on the charisma is a good one. Because Alexander would go against bigger armies. And it's like, fuck, we're going to die. Like, this army is bigger than our army. But they won. And it's like, how did they, what? This makes no sense. How did they win? And it's just something to being around these people where I'm like, yeah, I get it now. Like I've been around someone who, weirdly enough, it's like the laws of physics don't apply to this guy. When I'm around him, I'm like, how do you, what is what is it about you, you know? And I
Yeah.
try to figure him out. I want Ferriss to interview him as well, because I'm like I want to figure
Dude,
out.
make it happen. the
If he
world,
wasn't
the
in
world
Europe,
will thank you for it. What's that?
yeah,
If he
I've
was,
tried. He's in Europe, right? So it's like I want
yeah,
them to be in the same room. The same thing with Fox. I don't want it to be a Zoom call. I want it to be in the same room,
yeah.
and because it makes it, there's more depth to it, like the Tim Ferriss and Fox interview.
That's
So
probably why it was one of the best interviews, right? It's just like
mhm.
the vibe is just like, I mean, the fact that there's a piano, it's just like totally different.
And Fox and Tim has interviewed. You could say it's because Fox is famous, but Tim has interviewed LeBron James and Tim has interviewed some really big names. But Fox was the biggest interview because it's like, I'm telling you, there's something to Jamie. There's just something I've named them. I have met a lot of these Hollywood names, and there's just something to Fox. It's like when he turns on the storytelling charisma, it's just like, okay, how do you do that?
Mm.
How can I replicate that? And I'm telling, there's something to Ronaldo, right? Like, and have you watched the Jordan documentary?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
I'm
good,
like,
man. Last Dance.
there's something to that guy too. I look at that guy and I'm like,
Have
some,
have you
uh,
met him?
I have not met Jordan. No,
No.
I didn't. Yeah, when I lived in LA, like I had a list of people I wanted to meet, and I met
Oh,
all of
dude, so
them.
let's get into this. Like like how like what you so you had a list.
Well, like I said, like I was bullied in school,
Yeah.
and it was like girls didn't like me, you know, and guys would make fun of me because every 3 years I was switching schools, and I was like, man, like this really sucks because like school was from age 9, between 9 and 11, no, age 11 till 15
Yeah.
was just hell because I was getting bullied in school. I was the fat kid, you know, so I was getting
Okay.
very bullied. I was getting the crap kicked out of me in school. And then my parents were going through a very rough divorce for years.
This was in the US or
This was in Spain.
in
I lived
Spain?
in Spain.
Okay.
And I went to a British school and I went to a Spanish school. And it just was super hard. And I didn't speak the language, I didn't speak Spanish fluently. So, man, school was hard because it's like I'm getting bullied. I'm like the little big kid, and girls don't like me, and and uh, and I go home and it's like mom and dad fighting. Like they were going through the whole divorce thing. So I was like, man, this really this sucks. And then I would play a lot of these strategy games. That's all I would do was play a lot of especially the Alexander the Great game. There was a great Alexander the Great game, and I played that so
Nice.
much. And I would also like always say, one day I'm just gonna, you know, like I'm gonna hang out with famous people and I'll show them, like I'll show these kids, like you know, the
Uh-huh.
girl who didn't want to go to prom with me. I'm kidding. But but so when I got to LA, I was like, this is surreal because now I have access to these people,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, okay, who do I want to, you know, so I was like, I want to meet these people. I won't say everyone, but there's a few stories that are more fun. Like I really wanted to meet Drake. I was like, I really want to
Okay.
meet Drake. Drake is because at that time he was coming, so he was the biggest thing in the world. Like his second or third album came out, which was his biggest. Take Care came out, which
Yeah.
was his biggest album, and I was like, I really want to meet this guy. Like, I really want to hang out with him. That would be great. And lo and behold, I was at a restaurant with a group of friends, and who walks into the restaurant? Drizzy. And I'm like, oh my god, that's Drake. And all my friends were like, oh my god, that's Drake. When Drake was the hottest thing in the world, and I was like, I have to go talk to him. I have to go talk to him. I was that guy where I was like, I get up from the table, I walk to Drake's table, and I'm like, I'm just gonna ask him for a picture. This was so embarrassing. I say it now. I was like 18, 19,
Yeah.
and I'm walking to his table, and then I feel like someone puts his hands on my chest, and I'm like, this big bodyguard. I'm a pretty tall guy, and the big
Like,
bodyguard
where
is.
did you come from, bro?
Oh hey, and he's like, where are you going? I'm like, no, I just want to meet Drake. He's like, no, he's having dinner. Don't bother him. And I'm like, no, I just want to ask for a picture. And I had my phone in my hand. And I know that Drake and Jamie are really good friends, because
Uh-huh.
when Drake was coming up, Jamie really was always like, throwing parties for Drake. And, Jamie really supported him. Like to this day, Drake refers to Jamie as one of his mentors. So I
Yeah.
know they're very tight. So I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
will. I can tell him like, Jamie, I know Jamie. We should be friends. And that didn't work. But I have my phone in my hand. I'm like this 18-year-old idiot, and I'm like, no, like, listen, I just want to take a photo with him. Like I'm friends with Jamie Foxx, and he's friends with Jamie Foxx, so we could, you know, be buddies. And the security looks at my phone because I'm holding my phone, and the security is like, is Jamie Foxx on the phone right now? I'm like, no, I just want to take a photo. And he's like, no, get out. And I'm like, okay. Don't kick my ass. I go back to the table and it's super embarrassing, like all my friends are like, it's okay, like, I'm like, oh, man, that was embarrassing, like in front of everyone. A few minutes later, like Jamie sends a text message saying, oh, I'm here at this club, you should come to the club. And I'm like, heck yeah, like let's go to the club. And I go to the club, and Fox is there, and I tell Fox like, oh, you won't believe what happened. And Jamie's like, what happened? I said, I was at the restaurant and I ran into Drake. And Jamie's like, oh, nice, did you say hi? I'm like, yeah, I tried, but like his bodyguard was twisting my arm and he was pushing me around the restaurant and he was like beating the crap out of me, like he said he was going to do this and he was going to do that and he was going to, I was like, I was like, yeah, no, I tried to meet Drake, but the bodyguard was a bit of a dick. And and Fox was like, oh, give me 5 seconds, give me 5 minutes. And he goes on his phone, and I'm like at the club, I'm like having fun, and then I feel Jamie tapping on my shoulder, and I'm like, what's up? And Jamie shows me a text message, and it's from Drake saying, oh, I'm throwing a little party at my house. You should come over. And I was like, Fox, like, Jamie, I've never asked you for a favor, and I never do. But and Jamie's like, his house is in, what was it? It was like Calabasas. I didn't know where Calabasas was, but Jamie's like, his house is in Calabasas. Are you sure you want to go there? And I'm like, of course. Like, yeah, of course. I didn't know Calabasas is like 40 minutes away. And Jamie's like, yeah, cool. Let's. It would be fun. So we get in the car, and then there's the group we were with. So there's like me in the car with Fox, and then the group that we were with in the car behind, and we're all driving to Drake's house. And and I'm like, this is so because I'm 18, and I'm like, or 19, and I'm like, this is so surreal because if you rewind the clock from that, this was definitely not happening to me. We get to Drake's house, and and it's like Jamie's like, they're really good friends, and Jamie's like, oh, this is my friend, and Drake's like, wait, aren't you the guy who was at the restaurant? And the security is like, I knew I recognized you. Like, yeah, see, like I told you. Yeah, I told you I knew Fox. So like we should be friends, And it was just a surreal experience with suddenly like I'm hanging out with Jamie and Drake at the house and they're talking about music and they're talking about movies. And it was just one of these things where I was like, what just it was kind of like the Matrix was broken, right? Because if you rewinded 5 years from that, my life
Yeah.
was definitely not that. It was just it was one of these really bad childhoods,
Yeah.
from ages 11 till 15, where as soon as I got to LA, it was like, I'm gonna get all of this out of my system, all the partying and all the, I'm just gonna, meet everyone I can meet, so that's kind of what happened, and that the Drake story is one of my favorites because it's like I even look back at it now and and I met him a few times after that, but it's one of these things where it's like, had you asked me when I was 11, no, that's not gonna. It's not. I want it to happen, but there was no path towards that, And then
Yeah.
you fast forward 5 years and I'm meeting these people and it's like, wow, this is what a funny life, it was very interesting.
Dude, that's such a crazy story. I feel like you have like infinite of the stories. It's like it's like
it was yeah. It's and well, especially if you live in LA because they all live there. So like meeting famous people, it's like you're definitely gonna meet some. I think Noah talked about this, right? He was in LA and then he hung out with Fox. So it's this. It kind of happens in Los Angeles, but for it to happen to me, seeing how I grew up, it was just like oh man, like I'm so thankful that because like high school was, it's hard to convey how hard high school was because I basically didn't want to live anymore. I was like, this is this, and everyone was telling me, oh yeah, you're gonna look back and you're gonna miss your high school days because high school days are the best days of your life. You're gonna look, and I was like, I don't want to live that. Fuck, this is the best days. I don't want that.
That's the worst. Yeah.
I was like, I don't want this. Like, this is the best. Like, it was terrible. When like at school, it sucked, and then I go back home and it sucks. And I was like, what's the point? So when I get to LA, it was kind of like let me get all this stuff out of myself. I know I have to work, and I know I have to build my own stuff, but let me spend the next 5 years
like start fresh. Yeah,
man, like all the pain. Let me get rid of that energy and just have fun.
At what point did you meet Jamie Foxx, and how did that happen?
Oh, we met because one friend introduced me to a friend who had this idea for a movie project, and Jamie was one of the actors he wanted to be part of that movie. So then we get introduced to Jamie's right hand guy, Dave, and Dave says, "Oh yeah, like this would be a cool project. We should talk to Fox." And that's how we met originally. It was, we wanted to work on a project together. But then we just ended up becoming friends. Like it's yeah, I can't say where we like, but we it started as a business thing, right? But it just ended up becoming a friendship, and the more it developed, the more it was like, oh man, we get along a lot. This is fun. Like, and we kept talking. Yeah, we'll do a project. We might still do a project, somewhere in the future. But we just developed this really cool friendship, and it's endured all these years.
One thing is how you got Jamie Foxx on Tim Ferriss's podcast. I really, I mean, first of all, that episode was like when it came out, that was like, whoa! I think it was the best podcast episode of the year, voted by iTunes or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I listened to it, I was blown away. And then when we met last summer and I found out that like you were behind that interview, I was like, holy shit, like, it was so cool. So I want to hear the story of like how you made that happen.
Yeah, I was a huge Tim fan. I still am, of course. Like I was listening to all his interviews.
Yeah.
I listened to every single one. And I liked that his interviews were not gotcha interviews. Like he wasn't trying to get the interviewee to say something that would compromise them later.
Yeah.
And I love that he would try to figure the person out. It's like, okay, what do you do when you wake up? What do you eat for breakfast? Like, what are your habits? What are your principles? And I was like, okay, he's asking people questions that, I you wouldn't ask your friend, but I'm like, I would love to know these things about Fox, because Fox is one of the most interesting people like that I've met. I've met so many people, like especially in Hollywood. You meet, especially working in Hollywood, you meet every celebrity. But there was just something about Jamie that just made him different. And I was like, I gotta figure that. Like he's the most talented guy, like he can act, he can play, he's a musician, he's an actor, he does comedy, and his intelligence is so interesting. Like he's a better chess player than I am, which really makes me angry. Like I was the best chess player in school. I was the captain of the chess team. I'm really good at chess, and he's better. And I'm like, okay, what is this guy like? Let me figure him out, because there's just something there. And I thought, the perfect person to do this would be Tim. because he'll get to ask him all the questions. So and there's another thing about Fox, which is his storytelling
Yeah.
is just, yeah. See, like he has this, and if I ask him, he's like, yeah, I think that's my gift. It's the art of storytelling, because I used to think that, like being in Hollywood and being around celebrities, you quickly notice that every celebrity is hilarious. Like you're in the room with them, whatever they say, everyone's gonna laugh about it.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna be. And I thought that's what it was with Jamie, but it's not, because I've seen Jamie in the room with other celebrities, and you could say people who are quote unquote more famous than him, or whatever, but he will always take over the room. Like he will hypnotize you. Like he's just he there could be anyone else in the room. He will own the room. Like I've never seen something like that. I've seen him with, picture any big name celebrity, and I've seen the celebrity trying to do what Fox is doing, because Fox kind of takes over the room, and then the celebrity will try to act the way he does and be as funny, but it just doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what is
What's
he?
the X factor? Yeah.
What is it? Right? So I was like, I can't figure it out. Let me get a pro. So I reach out to Tim, and it was a funny. I was like, I don't know if they're going to answer, but I was like, would you guys like to interview Jamie Foxx?
Did you just email him or did you tweet at him or?
No, I emailed. I emailed his assistant, and I don't know if they believed me at first, but then I sent like pictures. I was like, no, seriously, like we should make this happen. It would be awesome. And it took me about 6 7 months to make it happen, because it's hard with like Jamie's schedule, and it's kind of hard to like, this is going to be a 2 hour interview. I need you to be here for 2 hours. So I had to literally go to LA and be like, text everyone around Jamie and say, like, don't add anything to his schedule. Please don't take him anywhere. Like just let me do this thing with him for 2 hours. I think it was more. Or I said for 1 hour, but it ended up being more because they got along so well.
Yeah.
But I was like, please, like, just, I had to physically be there. And then Jamie kind of lives like, far away from the city. He lives like 40 minutes away from LA. So when I told Tim, I'm like, oh yeah, you should, like, this is the address. It was kind of like, like in the middle of nowhere.
He's
His
like, okay.
assistant,
It's like, is this like a
yeah.
scam or something like that?
And the assistant was like, yeah, I was ready with, because Tim knows a few Navy SEALs, so in case he went missing, I already knew what to do. I was like, no. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, just tell him go to this address at this time, like in the middle of nowhere. But it went great, and it happened so well, where it was in Jamie's studio, and his piano was like right here. So as Jamie is telling his stories, he's also playing the piano. He's acting the parts, and I could tell Tim was kind of like, he kept checking the equipment to make sure that it was recording. He's like, I don't want to miss this. So it just went perfectly. It was supposed to be an hour. It ended up being like 2 hours, and then, like, I didn't expect this, but it was Tim's biggest. I think it still is like his number one in terms of listens and how many times it's been played. I think it still is his number one podcast of all time. So that went fantastically well, and Tim's a great guy, and we ended up getting along. And those two got along, which was awesome to me. And you can see in the interview, kind of, I like that Tim did this, which was like deconstructing Fox, asking the right questions, knowing, like, okay, why are you good at telling stories? Why are you good at music? Where did this come from? Like, what makes you like this?
Yeah.
And it was just great to listen, and you can tell a lot of people liked it as well. So that made me happy.
Where can people find you online if they want to check you out?
It's recommendedbooks.com.
MBR.
MRB.
MRB.
Yes. Most recommended, most recommended books.com.
There you have it. I hope you got something out of this interview. I'm really trying to make this as valuable as possible to you. So if you have any feedback on how I can make this better, or if you have any questions for me personally, I'll get back to you. Reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is @JeremyJohnMary. You can also comment if you're watching on YouTube. You can just comment below. All right. Thanks for listening and have an epic week.